Would you please welcome Miss Lily Mae Ledford?
Well, friends, thank you. My goodness, I haven't played West Virginia since Renfro Valley's barn dances very, very early days, back in the 30s, late 30s. And Renfro Valley was a very hot show at that time. And we used to play there a lot, I believe, at the Keith Albee Theater. And then a few times on up in West Virginia. But the people did not come out very much for Renfro Valley in those days. And this time I dreaded it a little bit. But I see you've come out this time. Here's something us girls used to sing together. Now I have to sing by myself. Two of the Coon Creek girls are dead and gone. And one of them's still living, but she has to take care of her old man. And he's about to die. And has been for years and years. I think he's just playing possum, make her stay home, take care of it. Ain't nobody left but me, that's all it is. Biscuits can you eat this evening? How many biscuits can you eat? 49 and a ham of meat. Morning, this evening, right now. Make my coffee good and strong this morning. Make my coffee good and strong this evening. Make my coffee good and strong. Keep on bringing them biscuits on this morning, this evening, right now. Oh, how many biscuits can you eat this morning? How many biscuits can you eat this evening? How many biscuits can you eat? 49 and a ham of meat this morning, this evening, right now. Love my wife and love my baby this morning. Love my wife and love my baby this evening. Love my wife and love my baby. Love my biscuits soft and gravy. Morning, this evening, right now. Oh, how many biscuits can you eat this morning? How many biscuits can you eat this evening? How many biscuits can you eat? 49 and a half of meat. Morning, this evening, right now. Well. Woo! Here's one that the old Coon Creek girls recorded in 1938. We'd been together about 5 months and went to Chicago and did a little recording. And this old song was one that we just had one verse of it, and it was a man's song. I'm going round this world with a banjo picking girl and going round this world, baby mine. And my brother, he'd brought it back from Pike County when he went up there to work. And he'd pick a while and he'd sing that one verse a while. Well, us girls sat down with Mr. Larry and we made up, I guess 30, 40 verses of that and had a lot of fun doing it. And we finally got right silly with it and quit and just saved about 8 verses of it for our recording session. We knew that was coming up. This is one of them, Banjo Picking Girl. This world, baby mine. I'm going round this world, baby mine. I'm going round this world, I'll be a banjo picking girl. I'm going round this world, baby mine. Oh, I'm going Tennessee, baby mine. I'm going Tennessee, baby mine. I'm going Tennessee, don't you try to follow me. I'm going Tennessee, baby mine. Baby mine, I'm going to North Carolina, baby mine. I'm going to North Carolina and from there on to China. baby mine. If you ain't got no money, baby mine. If you ain't got no money, get yourself another honey. I'm going round this world, baby mine. Why, I'm going round this world, baby mine. I'm going round this world, baby mine. I'm going around this world. I'll be a banjo picking girl. I'm going round this world, baby mine. The Coon Creek girls all had flower names, Lily Mae, Rosie, Violet, and Daisy, and we were very proud of that because we'd done that ourselves. Mr. Laird didn't have anything to say about that. So, we didn't even ask him, but then we got the idea, why not call ourselves the Wildwood Flowers? Well, we wanted to keep that flower thing going. We liked that. So we went to Mr. Laird straight as we could go and asked could we call ourselves Wildwood Flowers. We had not yet been named, and we had not yet been placed on the air. We'd been there 2 weeks rehearsing in Covington and getting ready, and we were liking the sounds we were making. So we asked him that, and he said, girls, don't you think, he said a more country name would be more suitable. So he said, how about Coon Creek Girls? Anybody hearing that name would know what it wants without hearing you, what kind of music you would be playing. So we said, well, all right, but we don't come from Coon Creek. And he said, well, that's still a good country name. You don't have to come from Coon Creek. And I found out you had to lie and fabricate a little, in the business. And that you had to learn to politic around. And that part of it I had never had to do, and I didn't care too much about that. But he said, on hearing that name, anybody would know what kind of music you played without having to hear you even. And so Coon Creek Girls we became. That was 1937. Well, I ain't gonna work tomorrow, and I ain't gonna work today. Ain't gonna work tomorrow, or it may be my marrying day. I'll hang my head in sorrow, and I'll hang my head and cry. Well, I'll hang my head in sorrow as my true love passes by. Well, I ain't gonna work tomorrow, and I ain't gonna work today. Well, I ain't gonna work tomorrow, for it may be my marrying day. Can't you hear my banjo ringing? Can't you hear this mournful sound? Can't you hear them pretty girls singing as they stand on the cold, cold ground? Well, I ain't gonna work tomorrow, and I ain't gonna work today. Well, I ain't gonna work tomorrow, for it may be my birthday day. One more verse. Sometimes I live in the country, sometimes I live in town. Sometimes I take a full notion to jump in the river and drown. Well, I ain't gonna work tomorrow, and I ain't gonna work today. Well, I ain't gonna work tomorrow, for it may be my birthday day. Or it may be my birthday day. Woo! Yeah. Lordy, Lordy. Pretty Polly was one that Mama told us we could sing. Now, Wild Bill Jones put her foot down on that, and Little Corey, and Frankie and Johnny, because of drinking and wine drinking, and moonshining mentioned in some of them. And she said we could sing Pretty Polly, and she mentioned some other old songs. I said, well, Mama, I don't know why you think those songs that's got whiskey and drinking, and that don't mean we have to go out and bring it in here in the house and drink it. That just means we be singing about it. Everybody else does. She said, yeah, you want to be like that sorry bunch lives down the road. All the women down there picking the banjo and singing them old drunkard songs. And she said, the men are making rock gut moonshine. And she said, now, that's all right maybe for the boys, but she said, now, don't you girls sing that. Now, Pretty Polly is one. There's your good love song. I said, Mama, Pretty Polly has got a murder in it. That man killed Pretty Polly. It's better to kill somebody or to drink. And she said, I think it's better to kill somebody. She said, he probably wouldn't have killed her if he hadn't been drunk. Here it is, Pretty Polly. Where is Pretty Polly? Oh, yonder she stands. Where is Pretty Polly? Oh, yonder she stands. Gold diamonds on her fingers and her little white hand. Polly, Pretty Polly, come take a walk with me. Polly, Pretty Polly, come go along with me. Before we get married, some pleasure to see. I led her over hills and valleys so deep. I led her over hills and valleys so deep. And then Pretty Polly, she began to weep. Willie, oh Willie, I'm afraid of your way. Willie, oh Willie, I'm afraid of your way. I'm afraid you are going to lead me astray. Polly, Pretty Polly, your guess is about right. Polly, Pretty Polly, your guess is about right. I dug on your grave the biggest part of last night. We went a little further, and what did she spy? We went a little further, and what did she spy? A newly dug grave with a spade lying by. Threw her arms around me and begged for her life. She threw her arms around me and begged for her life. So deep into her bosom I plunged the fatal knife. She fell to the ground and the blood it did flow. She fell to the ground and the blood it did flow. And then to her grave Pretty Polly did go. Threw the dirt around her and turned to go home. I threw the dirt around her and turned to go home, and left Pretty Polly with the birds to weep and mourn. Now to the devil the debt I must pay, and now to the devil the debt I must pay, for killing Pretty Polly and running away. This is one called Wild Bill Jones, and my oldest brother Kelly went to the Pike County to work in the mines and live among our relatives up there one time, and we were always glad to see him coming back because he brought back some old songs we hadn't heard, and this is one of them called Wild Bill Jones. I went out just a walking about, and I walked upon that Wild Bill Jones. He was walking and talking with his true love, Lucille. I told him to leave her alone. He said, my age, just 21, too old for to be controlled. I
drew my revolver from my side. I destroyed that poor boy's soul. Well, he kicked and he scrambled and he fell to the ground. He gave one dying moan. I turned around to my true love, Lucille, saying, darling, you'll be left alone. Well, I've got $1 in my pocketbook and a cold check in my hand. Come on, boys, let's all take a drink while I got this money for a spin. Pass around that little brown jug and we'll all get on a spree. For the day was the last of that Wild Bill Jones. Tomorrow'll be the last of me. I wrote my honey a letter saying, darling, I'm locked up in jail. My honey, she wrote me a letter saying, darling, can't you get bail? I wrote my honey another one saying, darling, I done got bail. My honey, she wrote me another one saying, honey, what might bail be? My woman, she sent me a $10 bill, said, honey, come back home to me. I was on that old train when she started that night. I was on her when she whistled for day. Engineer said to the fireman, just a little more extra coal. We'll heat her red hot, and we'll keep her in a trap, and we'll run her in some lonesome hole. Woo! I remember that one of my teachers once, and she's my cousin, and she's a very stern teacher, but a very, very good one. So my brother and sister said they were good students. But she never could do anything with me. I wanted to sit and stare out the window all the time at the big cliffs where it had holes in it, this cliff did, and it was called the Jewel Rock, because a man by the name of Jewel had jumped from it and committed suicide at one time. So it was called the Jewel Rock, and I would sit there, and pretty soon I'd begin to have fantasies about little green dwarfs coming out of those holes. They would live in there, you know, and they'd come out and play fiddles and play music, and I'd get so carried away in my fantasies that I could just see them. About that time, the teacher everybody else would be working on their exams and things like that. There wasn't very many of us, 3 or 4 families. Well, she'd come along and peck me on the head with a switch, slip up behind me, you know, to draw my mind back to my studies, you see. And so I let on like I was studying for a while, and pretty soon I wanted my little fiddlers back out. And then I started staring out the window again, and Mama sent my daddy to her to ask what was wrong with Lily Mae, that she's bringing home a bad report card all the time. And so he brought it up at the supper table that night. Her mama brought it up. She said, White, did you go and, Daddy's name was Doe White, said, White, did you ask Nellie today what's wrong with Lily Mae? Why is she not doing any better? And she said, well, that I was just absent-minded. And well, to me, I was already under fire and afraid to raise my head. They'd been scolding me so much. I thought absent meant gone. I couldn't, we'd never used that term that I could remember, absent-minded. So I thought, well, I ain't got no mind, you know. And that woman liked to ruin my life for a while. I was afraid to ask anybody. I was afraid to say a word. But it's funny, when I got into teenage and got playing the fiddle and got to go into playing for square dances, we'd moved on down the river where there's a lot of people, and going to church and going to Sunday school and things like that. My life got happy. And I found a teacher that just dearly loved to work with me, and she encouraged me to play and draw pictures and paint and color, which I like to do first. And then before I knew what hit me, she'd have me working. And then when they had a school fair at the other end of the county, at the county seat of Stanton, that was in Powell County. We lived in the Red River Gorge. She took me and entered me in the all-around good student contest, or whatever they called it. And I won second place for the county, and surprised all my old teachers and shocked my schoolmates and my parents. Well, they haven't got over it yet. No, but anyway, I could do it. I just preferred not to. These other things, I don't think about music all the time, and drawing pictures, painting and coloring.
I was born in East Virginia, North Carolina I did go. Fell in love with a fair young maiden. Her name I did not know. Her hair was dark brown curly, her cheeks were rosy red. On her breast she wore a snow white lily. Thousand tears I know I shed. I'll go up in some dark holler. I'll set up my moonshine still. I will sell you 1 old gallon for 1 $10 bill. I'd rather be dead in my coffin, my pale face turned toward the sun, than to think that you love some other when you promised to be mine.
My friends, have you heard how a long time ago 2 little children whose names I don't know were stolen away on a bright summer's day and left in the woods? I've heard people say, poor babes in the woods, poor babes in the woods. Oh, don't you remember poor babes in the woods? And when it was night, so sad was their plight, the sun went down and the moon gave no light. They sobbed and they sighed and they bitterly cried. Then the poor little things, they laid down and died. Poor babes in the woods, poor babes in the woods. Oh, don't you remember poor babes in the woods? And when they were dead, the robin so red brought strawberry leaves and over them spread, and all the night long the branches among they mournfully whistled, and this was their song. Poor babes in the woods, poor babes in the woods. Oh, don't you remember poor babes in the woods? I want you to know I've had the best time, best good homecoming feel here today, and I'm kind of getting to talk to people I used to know and strangers too that wanted just to talk. And they asked me about my family and about the other Coon Creek girls and all kinds of things for us to talk about. And they complimented me. It took me 30 minutes to get from the alumni building on over to the corner today, from stopping to talk and for people catching up with me and wanting to talk with me. Now that's wonderful. I play a lot of festivals this summer, and I played some that never had heard of me. And I was a little bit afraid of how they'd receive me there, you know. It was way up east, and they didn't seem to have ever heard of me or the Coon Creek girls or anything else about us. And I never got such reception in my life as I got that night. I think it's because I was lonely for them, don't you see? I was out of the business so many years, and then I'll go the whole winter and maybe not play anything. And the next summer, it's that crowd that I miss. I miss them like I miss my people. And when I walk out there, I feel that very strongly. And they seem to love me back then when they realize that I love them. And they seem to love me back. That's the best feeling in this world, and I didn't have that in the early years. It's just after I got older and stayed out of it for 10 years and went back that I realized how very much they had meant in my life, and I never had fully appreciated them. But I do now. I love you. Let's
Little birdie, little birdie, what makes your wings so blue? It's because I am grieving over you, oh, grieving over you. Little birdie, little birdie, what makes you fly so high? It's because I have a true little heart. I don't care to die. I'd rather drink muddy water, sleep in a holler log, than to stay here on this old river, be treated like a dirty dog. Oh, be treated like a dirty dog. Little birdie, little birdie, come sing to me your song. It's a short time to stay here, but long time to be gone. Oh, long time to be gone.
Oh mother, come tell me this riddle, unriddle it all as one. Must I go marry fair Ellender, or bring the brown girl home? The brown girl, she has house and land, fair Eleanor she has none. I warn you on my blessing, Sir Thomas, go bring the brown girl home. Go saddle up my milk-white steed, go saddle him up for me. I'll go and buy fair Eleanor my wedding for to see. He rode till he came to the hall. He tingled all on the ring. Nobody so ready as fair Eleanor to rise and bid him come in. What news, fair Eleanor cried, what news have you brought to me? I've come to invite you to my wedding. Is that good news for thee? Bad news, fair Eleanor cried, bad news have you brought to me. I once did think I would be your bride, and you the bridegroom would be. Oh mother, come tell me this riddle, unriddle it all as one. Must I go to Lord Thomas's wedding, or tarry with thee at home? There may be many of your friends, dear daughter, but many more of your foes. I warn you on my blessings, fair Eleanor, to tarry with me at home. There may be many of my friends, dear mother, but many more of my foes. And if I never return again to Lord Thomas's wedding, I'll go. She dressed herself in scarlet red, her maids she dressed in green, and every town that she rode through, they took her to be some queen. She rode till she came to the hall. She tingled all on the ring. Nobody so ready as Lord Thomas to rise and bid her come in. He took her by her lily white hand and led her into the hall. He seated her on a golden chair among the fine ladies all. Is this your bride, fair Eleanor cried, that looks so wondrously brown? You once could have married as fair a lady as ever the sun shone on. The brown girl had a little penknife. It was both long and sharp, between the long ribs and the short, she pierced fair Eleanor's heart. Oh, what is the matter, Lord Thomas, he cried. Oh, are you blind, cried she, and can't you see my own heart's blood come trickling down to my knee? He caught the brown girl by the hand and jerked her across the hall. He drew a bright sword and cut off her head and flung it against the wall. He placed the sword against the wall with a point against his chest, saying, "This is the end of three poor lovers. God take us all to rest."
I thought I'd tell you something that happened to us. As Laura Jones told you a while ago, a great honor was bestowed on the Coon Creek girls in 1939. We'd been together 2 years almost. And it all stemmed from that festival we did in Washington where we thought nobody liked us. But there was somebody there that did. And one day Mr. Lair called us over to his office. "Girls, come over here right quick." He said, "I've got some good news for you." And we thought, "Oh, goody, we're going to get a raise, going to get a raise." Well, we went over there just flying, but that wasn't what it was, but it was something we had never dared dream possible. Mrs. Roosevelt was planning an after-dinner concert in honor of the King and Queen of England. That was King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, parents of the present reigning queen. They were to pay their first visit to this country and to the White House. And she wanted to give them an all-American concert after dinner. And she was to have Lawrence Tippett for the opera tenor, and Marian Anderson was to do the classical, and Kate Smith was to do popular songs. Alan Lomax was to do the Western folk songs, and the Coon Creek girls she had chosen from the festival as she was attending, and we didn't know it, of course, to do Appalachian music. And then there was 100 black people from there in Washington. And I think they were from various churches there in Washington. They were to sing the Southern Spirituals. And there was 16 square dancers, I believe, from Asheville, North Carolina, there with Bascom, Lamar, Lunsford. And the Coon Creek girls were to play the music for them. And that was to wind up the concert. We got there 2 days early so we could go out and rehearse. And one day out at the White House, at different places, and then finally to the East Ballroom. And there was a committee in charge of us, a man, 2 men and a woman. And they were very nervous for fear the Coon Creek girls, being little country girls, would do something to embarrass their majesties and the Roosevelts. Well, they followed us around all day, rehearsing us, and just on every step or every move that we made, we wasn't a bit nervous. We were highly confident of ourselves. But we were getting to get that way a little bit and wondered what's so almighty about it all, you know. We hadn't been interested in the presidents and the king and queen much before, but we began to realize we were getting into something there. But that night, they sent a limousine for us. And by the time we got there, the gate swung wide and let the limousine in, had the organizing committee and the Coon Creek girls and all their instruments in there. And we had dressed and primped ourselves in our street dresses we wore. And we wore them, we had some of them made and some of them we bought, matched our names. I wore a white one, Rose wore a pink one, Rosie wore a pink one, Daisy wore one, the green one with daisies printed all over it, and Violet wore a purple and lavender one that she had made. And we trimmed them up with a bit of lace, you know, and we wore low-heeled shoes. And Mr. Lair asked us not to wear white shoes, and we also told us not to wear the long calico dresses we wore on the stage that he had us wear, nor the high-top shoes, nor the ribbon bows in our hair to go with our old-time music. We wore old-timey dresses. And he said the organizing committee thought it could be shocking to the Queen, and she should not be subjected to calico. So, well, the show was underway when we got there, but first, I'll tell you what a hassle we had at the gates when they wouldn't let Mr. Laird in. The committee had told him, you might get in by putting the bass fiddle in your car, and you and Mrs. Laird follow our car. And said, when we get to the gates, it'll be heavily guarded. And said, you'll have to explain, and they may have to make a call or something to get you in. So sure enough, they swung wide for us, and we drove on in. And Mr. Lair, they stopped his car at once, and they hauled the bass fiddle out of there. and they took the case off of it. They looked in all the pockets of it. You know, the cases have pockets. They're made out of canvas. And looked in all the pockets, and they shook the bass fiddle, shone a flashlight down in it. We stopped and waited and watched to see if he's going to make it through. And we finally saw him come on with his bass fiddle, walking, and they turned Mrs. Lair back. And she cried, and she went back to the hotel to wait for us. And Mr. Lair come along behind us, toting bass fiddle. Well, that was kind of funny to us, because we thought, well, back home he's king, and we were the subjects, the little kids, you know. It'd have been him in the limousine and us toting bass fiddle. Now, well, we had a lot of laughs about that, and there were some other guards planted along the driveway, and he'd have another hassle, and we'd have to stop and wait on him till he got through that one. But he finally got in there with it, and we all got in. By that time, Kate Smith was finishing her song, and then next was to be out on Lomax, and each was to have 3 numbers. So we were ushered up there in the middle of Out on Lomax's Western song, Old Chisholm Trail, his last one. Then they announced us formally. I believe all they said was, Coon Creek Girls, somebody in uniform and monkey suit. Well, anyway, we ran out there and lit right in. How many biscuits can you eat? That's what they told us that Mrs. Roosevelt wanted. She'd heard us do that at the festival, and we started picking and singing, and we'd been told, now you won't get to see the king and queen. Now the other performers were talking. There was some envy, you know, which is natural. You won't get to see the king and queen. No, they and the Roosevelts, they'll be behind the veiled place, and they can see you, but you can't see them. And so we didn't look for them, but we were looking at the splendor in this great, beautiful East Ballroom, and all those lovely gowns and jewels and fancy hairdos, and the men in their white ties and tails, and everybody is sitting up straight and looking their best. And I'm sure that we were pretty awed by what we were seeing, and it wasn't exactly like playing schoolhouse where everybody stomped and hollered and whistled and patted their hands and grinned and laughed, you know, and we all had big time. We saw it wasn't to be that way. But we played How Many Biscuits. We'd sing a verse, and then we'd sing the chorus, and then we'd fiddle one, and then somebody else would sing a verse, and we'd sing the chorus, and then I'd pick one on the banjo. We'd done that so many times on the stage, we could do it automatically at the same time, look around a little bit, you know. And we'd been told not to stare. We were getting pretty professional. We knew not to do that anyhow. But you can't help but size things up if you know your song well and know you're not going to miss any of it. So we kept glancing out the corner there, and right down there they were, the king and queen and Rose in the front row, almost right in our face. Well, you could have spit on them. They were so well, there was Mrs. Roosevelt, whom we noticed first and recognized at once by seeing her pictures in the paper, and she'd been called a plain woman or a homely woman by many, and we kind of thought so too, you know, but we'd always been, liked her. She was always smiling in her pictures and was always busy attending things, and seemed to be working for the mountain people and for the poor people and the minority groups. And so we already liked her, and she was smiling, and she had on a nice fitted chiffon gown. It was no fluff for her. She was not that kind of dresser, and just a single string of pearls, and her hair was nicely done, and I thought she had a nice white and pink complexion that went with her dress, and I thought, well, she's an attractive woman. Now, she's not ugly like they've been saying. Of course, they had that beautiful chandelier with soft lights glowing on all that, and that made everybody, I guess, look prettier. But she'd look down at the little program in her lap, and look at her, and then she'd glance up at each one, and I thought, oh, she's noticing our dresses. She's noticed that our colors, we're wearing our colors, and she's noticing which one is who. I noticed the little queen and thought she was just as pretty as a little doll. Now, not that she was little bit on the plump side, but not enough to hurt her. But she had on such a lovely gown, tight bodice and a great bouffant skirt, and it sparkled, but it was very muted, with the layers of dark chiffon, and she had on the diamond tiara. Is that what you call it? Well, anyway, she had it on, her pretty hair. And she was smiling and showing her pretty teeth. Mrs. Roosevelt was, and President Roosevelt was. He was just seemed to be enjoying himself immensely. and he had a very deep tan and pretty sparkling, gleaming white teeth, and we thought him a very handsome man. And then my eyes swung over to the king, and that just ruined the whole thing. And he was sitting there just like this, just like a ramrod, straight as he could be, not a muscle moving, didn't bat an eye, looking straight ahead. And I thought, well, you old sourpuss, you. I thought that to myself, you know. And I thought, if you don't like the show, he ought to get on up and go on to his room or wherever. I thought, maybe you'll like the next one. Maybe you don't like Biscuits. We were singing How Many Biscuits. Maybe he's a cornbread man, you know. Well, I thought, well, I'm not going to look at him more. That'll ruin the whole thing. And I like to drop a couple stitches on my banjo looking at him that time. So we went on and sung our Soldier and the Lady. That had been chosen as an English ballad for the King and Queen. And then our third number was Get Along Home Cindy, and we were told that that was President Roosevelt's favorite folk song, and I believe that it was. I remember that he recrossed his legs and got himself all set to enjoy himself, and he did smile broadly all the way through that. We felt encouraged, and I thought, well, I'll not look at the king no more, but it seemed like I just had to check on him one more time. Well, I swung my eye back, you know, to the right where he was sitting, and he's looking exactly the same way, not a bit happier than he was a while ago, you know. But I glanced down and caught him patting his foot. I thought, uh-oh, we got him. So then the 100 black folks were doing the spirituals, and they sung Wade in the Water, a sound I'll never forget. I remember that steady pound, that rhythm they were doing with their voices. That was a great sound to me. Then they put on the square dancers, and boy, they just tore up that stage, and it was a large one to hold 16 dancers. And us girls got off to the side and played for them. They wanted it fast, and we give it to them. And so that was the end of our concert, except the orchestra played God Save the King, and everybody stood. And I was liking him a little better, you know, than I did before, because if I hadn't been, I'd have thought I'd just soon they'd save somebody else, you know. But anyway, we went on back downstairs. We circled the big stage, went on around behind it, and back down to the dressing room, where we were served caviar sandwiches and raspberry punch. That was our first caviar ever. Well, I believe it was the last, come to think of it. And it's not getting any cheaper, and I guess it never will get any more of it. But I happened to look down and noticed Sis we had to wear silk hose that night. We were used to wearing cotton hose under those high-top shoes, and we had to take our money on stage with us. We didn't want to take pocketbooks on the stage. So we would stick money somewhere in our clothing, usually in our shoe, and under our garter. You wore garters in those days, and roll the stocking around them. Well, those old cotton stockings would hold money if you tuck it under them. But the silk hose, it had worked loose, and I looked down, and Sis had a $20 bill on the front of her leg. Well, I said, Sis, Lord have mercy, what in this world did you put that in your stocking for? She said, why, I didn't. She said, I'll swear that I stuck it under my garter, and she said, it's worked loose and slipped down there. I said, well, no wonder the king was sitting there in shock. And Roosevelt was having such a good time, too.
I do dearly love to play for a good square dance. And when we lived back on Red River in Powell County of Kentucky, it's where we grew up. They had them all the time. And that was another thing, a bad word for Mama, is dancing and string music had never been allowed in her home because Grandpa was a fierce old man and he was a hard-shell Baptist and didn't allow none of that. And so that's what made Mama so hard on us, especially us girls, when we started picking up music, you know. And then especially the dancing. They were having dances down the river, and we'd hear about them and would give anything to go. My daddy wanted us to because they'd always danced and played music in their home, and so he didn't see any wrong with it. So we moved on down the river one time, and boy, the fat was in the fire. When we got down there, they were having the square dances, and they were having work-ins and every kind of a good time. They had church too and prayer meetings. They had just something to go to all the time. And then us Ledfords fit right into that on account of our music, you know. And the old fiddle that I pieced together was, and I made my bow out of a green willow stick and we had an old white workhorse, and I cut a hunk of hair out of his tail. I bound that to each end of my stick and drawed it just tight as I could. I wanted a good tight bow. And I wore his tail nearly out, but that bow tearing up and having to make another one all the time. But anyway, in 6 months' time, I was playing for the square dances there on the river because my daddy had got a hold of $7, and you could order one from one of the sales catalogs, you know, for that price at that time. You get a bow and fiddle both for $7. That's what he paid for it. And it was pretty good fiddle. And Coon, my brother, took up fiddling. Then my fiddle finally fell apart, and we just swap. I'd play for the dances a while, and then he'd play. And we got winning fiddling contests they'd have down at Stanton at the county seat. When a band would play there, they'd have a little amateur contest, you know, or a fiddle contest. And friends would take me and Coin down there, and we'd both enter. And if he didn't win it, I would, and so on. I'll do Sally Goodin. You don't know what a good time we've had back here meeting people from Powell County, where I was raised, that I hadn't seen in 30 years or since I was a little girl. Well,
I guess 40 years, me might say 40, 45. And also some relatives. And that is always great. I'm glad to get to come up here and see you folks. Even if I didn't get to pick a song, that would suit me fine, get to visit. So here is one called White Oak Mountain. While I'm tuned in a minor key, let's play this one. Sun rolled around in the wind. Mary, don't go, little girl. Come back and see me once more. 15 cents, all the money I got. Honey, don't you want some change? All I want is a 44 gun to blow out a siren man's brains. I wish to the Lord I'd never been born or died when I was young. Before I seen them pretty blue eyes, I hear that lying tongue. Hand me down my old white hat. It's hanging there on a nail. Before this time tomorrow night, I'll ride out on that long, long trail. Oh, I'll never believe what another man says, though his eyes be blue or brown. Unless it's on a scaffold to be hung, saying, darling, I wish to come down. That's it.
This is one of my very favorite ballads called John Henry, and of course everybody knows John Henry, one version of it or other. And some like to sing it real jazzy, and some like to sing it bluesy, and some like to sing it fast enough to dance square dance by. But anyway it's sung and played, it's good, and some versions have cuss words in them and all that. But I like a Ledford family version. This is one I grew up with, and it's my favorite ballad because of the thing that happened in this song with this man that was trying to beat the steam drill that he knew would take his job, his livelihood, and I think it tells a very, very powerful story. When John Henry was a little bitty boy, sitting on his papa's knee, he said the big bend tunnel on the C&O road, it's gonna be the death of me, Lord, Lord, it's gonna be the death of me. When John Henry was 7 years old, holding to his mama's hand, said if I live to be 21, I'm gonna make a steel driving man, Lord, Lord, gonna make a steel driving man. John Henry made a steel driving man, belonged to the steel driving crew, and every time his hammer come down, you could see the steel walking through, Lord, Lord, you could see the steel walking through. John Henry had a pretty little woman. Her name was Polly Ann. John Henry'd get sick and could not work. Little Polly drew steel like a man, Lord and Lord. Little Polly drew steel like a man. They put the steam drill on the right-hand side. They put John Henry on the left. He said, before I left, that steam drill beat me down. I'll hammer my fool set to death, Lord and Lord. I'll hammer my fool set to death. John Henry walked up to his boss and said, oh boss, how can it be? The rock is so hard and the steel is so tough. I feel my muscles giving way, Lord and Lord. I feel my muscles giving way. Oh, they took John Henry to the steep hillside. He looked to the heavens above. He said, take my hammer and wrap it in gold. Give it to the girl I love, Lord and Lord. Give it to the girl I love. Oh, they took his hammer and they wrapped it in gold. They gave it to Polly Ann. Very last words John Henry ever said to her was, Polly, do the best you can, Lord, oh Lord. Polly, do the best you can. If I die, railroad man, you'll bury me under the tie, so I can hear old number 4 as she goes rolling by, Lord, oh Lord, as she goes rolling by. But if I die a steel driving man, go bury me under the sand, with a pick and a shovel at my head and feet, 9-pound hammer in my hand, Lord and Lord, 9-pound hammer in my hand, with a 9-pound hammer in my hand, Lord and Lord, 9-pound hammer in my hand. Down by the river, the old log hut stands, where father and mother once dwelled, and the old latch that was worn by their hand, and the church where in prayer they knelt. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, for all that is past is over, you know, and the future is but a dream. Time in its rapid, remorseless flight has furrowed our brows with care, and the icy touch of its withered hand has silvered our locks of hair. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, for all that is past is over, you know, and the future is but a dream. Tall grass has grown o'er the master's grave, but the river keeps rolling on, and the birds and the bees from the blossoms and the trees keep singing this same old song. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream, for all that is past is over, you know, and the future is but a dream.
I'm going to sing them. Start out with a spiritual. This girls sung together on the stage a lot and radio, called Didn't It Rain? Well, didn't it rain, children? Didn't it rain? Oh, my Lord, well, listen to the rain. Listen to the rain. Didn't it? Oh, my Lord, didn't it rain? Didn't it rain? It rained 40 days, 40 nights without stopping. Oh, no, I was glad when the rain stopped a-dropping. When I get to heaven, gonna put on my shoes, walk all around and shout the good news. In the east, in the west, in the north, and in the south, all day and all night. Oh, tell me, didn't it rain, children? Didn't it rain? Oh, my Lord, well, listen to the rain. Listen to the rain. Didn't it? Oh, my Lord, didn't it rain? Didn't it rain? The animals come in a 2x2, the elephant and the kangaroo. Oh, Noah cried out, you men are full of sin. My God's got the key and you can't come in. In the east, in the west, in the north, in the south, all day and all night. Oh, tell me, didn't it rain, children? Didn't it rain? Oh, my Lord, well, listen to the rain. Listen to the rain. Didn't it? Oh, my Lord, didn't it rain? Didn't it rain in the east, in the west, in the north, in the south, all day and all night? Oh, tell me, didn't it rain, children? Didn't it rain? Oh, my Lord, well, listen to the rain. Listen to the rain. Didn't it? Oh, my Lord, didn't it rain? Didn't it rain? Hi.
Who rocked that cradle? Who sang that song? Who rocked that cradle when I'm gone? I rock that cradle, I'll sing that song. I'll rock that cradle when you're gone. Ain't got no use for the little red rocking chair. Got no sugar, honey, baby, here. Done all I can do, and I've said all I can say. Gonna see my honey next payday. Ain't got no use for the little red rocking chair. Got no sugar, honey, baby, here.